On April 26th of this year, Avengers Endgame was released into theaters, and a lot of people thoroughly enjoyed it. I myself liked it. It definitely closed the book on many different chapters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is owned by Marvel Studios, which is owned by Disney. When Avengers Endgame was released into theaters in the US on opening weekend, it passed like $350 million. As of now, around the world, this movie has earned over $2 billion. That is a lot of money. Definitely a lot of money that Chemistry Productions does not have. So, support this channel. Now into the nitty-gritty of Avengers Endgame. This movie had a lot of themes, had a lot of symbolism in it, but that's not unlike a lot of Marvel movies. There's a lot of themes and symbolism. For example, look at Iron Man 3. That movie dealt with post-traumatic stress disorder. You can go back to Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is a movie that we covered on this channel, and it talked about ex-convicts and how they get reintegrated into society. Basically, Avengers Endgame is the second part of a movie that was previously released through Marvel Studios called Avengers Infinity War. In Avengers Infinity War, an antagonist by the name of Thanos goes around the universe and collects these gems or Infinity Stones. Once he collects all these Infinity Stones, he uses them to get rid of half of all life in the universe. And that's pretty much the end of Avengers Infinity War. In Avengers Endgame, the characters are trying to reverse what Thanos did in Avengers Infinity War. In order to do this, they gather these Infinity Stones that Thanos had in the first movie by going back in time and gathering all the stones before Thanos can get his hand on it in the first place. The characters then come back to the present and they use these stones to restore all life in the universe that was lost from Avengers Infinity War. But of course, there are casualties in this process. I mean, what kind of movie would this be if there weren't any? At the end of Avengers Endgame, Captain America, who is the leader of the Avengers, who the movie is named after, which is this group of heroes that fight crime, villains, whatever. Anyways, Captain America goes back in time and returns all the stones that they collected to their rightful places. In order to return these Infinity Stones back to the past, Captain America uses a time machine that's operated by his colleague Bruce Banner, and he's accompanied by his friends Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes. When Captain America goes back in the past, he's only supposed to be gone for about 5 seconds our time, but in his time, he's gone for a number of years. He doesn't return right away, and his buddy Sam Wilson immediately starts to panic. Seeing this, Bucky Barnes tells Sam Wilson to look off in the distance and look at an old man that's sitting on a bench near a lake. So Sam goes to greet the old man, and it turns out that it's an older Captain America. Captain America is sitting there and he's holding a shield. So something I must say about Captain America, he is very patriotic. He sports red, white, and blue on his uniform, and his shield also has the red, white, and blue colors. He often uses the shield when he's fighting in battles and whatnot. So he takes this shield and he gives it to Sam Wilson, and he pretty much says, hey, you're the new Captain America. And Sam is kind of reluctant at first, but he accepts the role. Now going back to these themes and this symbolism here, I actually saw this and I thought of a really good metaphor. And that is the plight of blacks in the US. I know. It's kind of random, but hear me out.
Well, we're waiting.
Captain America is a white individual. Captain America pretty much is what I guess the world would think Americans look like, or what the US would like to present itself as. A white individual, blue eyes, kind of dirty blonde hair, upstanding white male. Captain America also sports the red, white, and blue, and he's the leader of the Avengers. So in a sense, it's like this patriotic person who is leading a team. That's pretty much America in a nutshell. Now, Sam Wilson is a black individual and he goes by the moniker Falcon. He fights alongside Captain America. The two actually met in an earlier Marvel movie called Captain America Winter Soldier. Now, when Sam is sporting the Falcon uniform, it has red streaks throughout. And this is sort of like how blacks are in America. They are American, but they're not really treated as such. Now here's where I have to educate you all about something in particular. There's black individuals and there's black Americans. Now black Americans are the descendants of the chattel slaves that were in America. So the Africans that were brought on the boats to the Americas, like actual North America, the US that we know today, their descendants are what we call black Americans. Then you have black individuals or black people, which are members of the African diaspora. Now black people can come from Africa, they can come from the West Indies, they can come from South America. So back to what I'm talking about here. Black Americans have been here for as long as white Americans have been in America. In fact, black Americans have probably been here longer than the current white Americans, because the original white Americans that were here, we would consider them WASPs, which is white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. A lot of white people that are here now are Irish, Italian, German. They weren't part of the original colonials or colonists or conquistadors that came over here. Pretty much when Captain America hands his shield off to Falcon, we can see that as sort of like a metaphor for the white Americans, or America in general, finally accepting black people and saying, hey, you're American now. Now we're starting to see a little bit of acceptance of black Americans in the US today, or at least a push towards acceptance of black Americans with this movement called ADOS. ADOS. ADOS stands for American Descendants of Slaves. Now, these are black Americans, and what they're doing right now is they're making a push towards reparations. Reparations is pretty much a payment that the government owes black Americans, or the descendants of slaves in America, for the work that these descendants have put in on the cotton fields, the work that they have done to pretty much build America. Now, if you look at the lineage of black Americans in the US, their ancestors have pretty much fought in every war. No, not pretty much, they have fought in every war, spanning from the Revolutionary War to World War I to World War II, all the way up to the battles of today. And because of the past with slavery, these black Americans have had to deal with many hardships. For example, let's look at the Tuskegee experiment. In this experiment, black Americans who were slaves were tested on for syphilis, and a lot of them were actually given syphilis purposely, and their descendants have to deal with the impacts of that today. And we also have wealth. Now, when blacks were finally freed from slavery, they actually had no wealth, whereas the whites that were in this country had all the money that were made from their ancestors. And thus we have this big push for reparations, which is saying, hey, black Americans deserve this money, they deserve some sort of land allocation, they deserve something for their ancestors' hardships and how those hardships have impacted the current generations of black Americans today. So pretty much I'm saying that Captain America handing his shield to Sam Wilson is sort of like the push for reparations today, and how blacks or black Americans are trying to be fully accepted as US citizens. With that being said, I don't want to discriminate and not talk about blacks in America in general. Now, when you come over here from Africa, or you come from the Caribbean islands, you come from Haiti, you come from Cuba, you come from South America, you're still seen as the same pretty much. There might be some differences, but overall we are black. However, when it comes to reparations, that is an argument specifically for black Americans. Now, if you're Jamaican and you want reparations, that's an argument that should be taken up with the British, because the British colonized Jamaica, just like the French colonized Haiti, just like the Spanish, the Portuguese colonized the Dominican Republic. I think I'm getting that right. And yeah, so that's pretty much my talk of Avengers Endgame and Captain America and these themes and the symbolism. If you want more detail on what I'm talking about, definitely check out my article on medium.com, which I wrote not too long ago. I really think you'll enjoy it, and I hope you enjoyed this discussion right here. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Chemistry Productions.